Hello, my name is Essie Jewell, and this is my video project entitled Constructivism, an Old Idea for a New Generation. This is not a new theory. Socrates, over 2,000 years ago, was using these techniques for dialogues with his students to help them to better understand the flaws in their thinking. Within the last century, in the 20th century, researchers and psychologists, educators were beginning to gain a better understanding of how children learn. Two of the most famous, of course, are Jean Piaget and Lev Vygotsky. Piaget for his work with cognitive stages of development, and Vygotsky with his zone of proximal development. But there were many others who contributed significantly to the theories of constructivism. John Dewey, who was a great proponent of how important it was to ground education in real experience, and Jerome Bruner, who emphasized how very important it is for students to take a more active role in their own learning. There were many others. Seymour Papert, for example, was instrumental in introducing computer technology to the classroom, and others took that up and expanded on it. There's a number of current constructivists that are too numerous to mention. So what is constructivism? Well, in a nutshell, it's a learning theory that assigns responsibility for a student's learning to the student. In other words, students need to be taught how to learn. They need to monitor their own learning. They need to take an active and dynamic role in their own education and their own learning. Teachers act as a facilitator, and one of the critiques of that is, well, it puts teachers in a back seat, which is totally untrue. It puts teachers in a different position, but it emphasizes, or it brings students to the front. It's a student-based learning theory. A constructivist classroom is one that's geared to the student. It's not geared specifically to the convenience of the instructor. How it works? Well, to give an example, in my own classroom, we've recently started in the AP biology to use more constructivism or constructivist ideas. AIMS, which is the Arkansas Advanced Initiative for Math and Science, which works with advanced placement classes all over the state, has helped me get this set up. And basically, students are responsible for a certain amount of work out of class. They have homework assignments, which, of course, to students, that's a dirty word. Students have a reading assignment. They have PowerPoint they go over. Sometimes they have videos. When they come back in the next day, I help them if with any questions or anything they didn't quite understand about the homework assignment. Each day we do a different activity, something designed to bring out a concept that I consider important in the homework assignment. Be it, for example, last week we went over several things, emergent properties, for example, and reductionism, and how scientists use both of these methods to better understand how organisms work. Emergent properties, of course, is what occurs when you go from one level of complexity to another. For example, when studying cells, you might not see how, when cells are formed into tissues, what properties will emerge or how the cells will work together in tissues. And that's the basic nature of emergent properties. Reductionism, on the other hand, is where you maybe take a complex organism and you study an individual part. For example, a scientist might, when studying the human body, might study the endocrine system and see how that works. And to illustrate this in my class, I used several different manipulatives. For emergent properties, I used some puzzles, just some simple block puzzles. However, each of these puzzles, when you put them together, could form one of 6 different pictures, which illustrated graphically the concept of an emergent property. For reductionism, I used a ballpoint pen and a flashlight and a stapler, and students were required to take these apart and were asked to define each part, explain how each part works, reassemble each object, and explain how all these parts work together to make a functioning whole. Now, again, teachers design and we monitor these classroom activities. Students collaborate on these. They're able to brainstorm. I find that my students are much more engaged in the learning process. They come in and whatever manipulatives I have out, the instant they walk in the door, they're already wanting to pick it up and touch it and feel it and to see what we're going to do. And it's what are we doing today instead of what are we doing today. It's an entirely different mindset. As far as classroom assessments, there are the classic bell ringer, in which students have a single question to answer and they brainstorm about it and look at the various possibilities. These questions are designed for creative thought. They're not something that you're going to find on page 1, paragraph 2, line 3. They're questions that you will have to think about how things fit together, how things work, and then answer the question. They are designed for creative thought. During the time period or the class period, I ask questions. I talk to students. We could do question and answer sessions. We do a single question at the end of the class. Students are allowed to collaborate on this, or allowed to brainstorm before they give an answer in 3 sentences or less. And then, of course, there will be a summative at the end of the unit. What I found is that this keeps students engaged. They're more interested in the subject material. They're more interested in asking questions. They come in ready to work. It's been a great experience since we began working with this. Some of the pros and cons, I've already discussed some of the pros, that there's increased learning, there's greater emphasis on thinking and understanding. These skills are transferable. What my students are learning in biology, they can take these skills and apply them in math or in English or history or whatever other class that they're working on. These are relatable to real world problems. For example, you don't learn just cold, isolated facts and then you walk out of the classroom and you don't have a clue what to do with them. These are things that you can use. These are problems and solutions that you can actually, these are relatable to real world problems. Students are able to work with each other. They gain a better understanding of how to cooperate with others, how to work in a multi-person environment, which is extremely important. Now, some of the criticisms that we find about this are it's considered elitist. It's considered, less prosperous districts don't have as much money to spend. But I find that although we're not a wealthy district, that these manipulatives are very inexpensive. It takes a little thought, a little creative thinking beforehand, but it does not take a lot of money. Another critique is that it promotes group thinking and that it promotes a herd mentality where only one or two people are maybe in charge. That there's a lack of student accountability, that it's not tested as rigorously, that students lag behind in basic skills. But I feel that students are even if they lag behind a little bit in basic skills, they're more than making up for it in creative thought and the ability to think for themselves. And the last con is that it does take more planning, and that really is true. But the payoffs for the increased learning and the increased interaction, the excitement, and how dynamic the classroom is as compared to a regular classroom that where you have a lecture and students are taking notes. I find that the difference is amazing. It is truly amazing to see how much more engaged students are and how much more interested they are in what is happening. In summary, I'd simply have to say that this is a wonderfully promising avenue for teachers to pursue. In my own case, I have what you might call a hybrid flipped, in which there's some lecture, there's some constructivism. It more or less brings out the best of both worlds as far as I'm concerned. I'd like to take a moment to thank all the websites that gave me some wonderful information that provided some additional insights to the text. My project has been over Constructivism out of Chapter 8 in Psychological Foundations. But I found a wonderful amount of information that was both engaging and informative.